This is Things Police See, First-Hand Accounts, with your host, Steve Gould.
Welcome to the podcast that interviews active and retired police officers about their most intense, bizarre, and sometimes humorous moments on the job. It is I, Old Gingerface, here with you as always. Thank you guys for being here. Truly appreciate you. Thank you to all the Sergeant Steve YouTube channel fans who have slid on over to check out the podcast. I truly appreciate that. And if you're a podcast listener and you haven't checked out the Sergeant Steve YouTube channel, please go over there and do that. The link is in the show notes. Recently, the channel's been unbelievable. We have a 250,000 subscribers, which I never imagined would happen. It's really, really cool. But of late, the last week or so, we have fallen under a shadow ban of sorts where when we release a video, it doesn't really go out for like 3 days and then it gets really big. They don't tell you why this happened. There's no strike on the channel, but I do know the more subscribers, the more interaction, the more YouTube sees people like the channel, the better off we are. So if you don't mind, and if you could, and if you like body cam breakdowns or you like Old Gingerface, you could go over there and subscribe, like, comment, do all those good things to help support that channel. I would truly appreciate that. Guys, very excited to have this guest. We were chatting before the interview and figured out that we actually both went to the same small state school in Western Massachusetts, which is so weird and kind of awesome. Westfield State College, now Westfield State University, because we are fancy lads up here in Massachusetts. This gentleman started his policing in 2004 in patrol. After 4 months, he was into crime suppression. He went into the crime suppression team. He was also on the ATF Task Force. He did narcotics for 3 years, and he also was a homicide detective. This is all for the Savannah-Chatham Metro Police Department. He has a book out, the third book that he's written in a trilogy called No Greater Honor, No Bigger Failure. Without further ado, let me bring on the great Kevin Grogan. Kevin, my fellow Fighting Owls guy. Welcome, my man.
I got to tell you, I'm jealous of the whole Gingerface thing, because this used to all be red. Now it's horrifically white. I don't know how that happened, but thanks for having me on.
Dude, my pleasure, man. Yeah, that's what they say about gingers. We hold on to our pigment a long time, but when it goes, it just, boom, turns white.
Completely gone, man. I was doing a little acting thing, and I shaved off my beard because it was a in uniform thing. And when it came back, it was all white. I was like, oh, what the hell happened?
You're kidding me. Did it have white at the base at all, or was it a total surprise?
It was a little gray, but man, it came back all just like it is now, like completely white. I was like, oh, life's over, man.
We call that in the redhead world flaming off. It's slowly happening to me. You notice my beard is much more red than my hair used to look like that, but it's happening, man. We can't fight it.
I still get a little red here, but that's it. Anyway.
Nice, man. So you somehow you go to Westfield State in Massachusetts and you end up down in Savannah. How did that happen?
Well, I'm a New England kid at birth. I grew up in Windsor, Connecticut, first town established in 1633. And Savannah is actually exactly 100 years older, 1733. But, I went to high school in Connecticut, went to Westfield State, played a little football, was on the boxing team, and then I went to work for the Windsor Police Department, my hometown, for a little less than a year. And, being the youngest of 5 kids in a town where your mother taught high school and that, it was a very small world.
I bet.
Yeah, so I joined a gang afterwards, joined the United States Army, got shipped off to Germany and saw cool places in the world, to include some lovely months in Baghdad, Iraq. And then when I came back from Germany, I got stationed at Fort Stewart, Georgia. And when I was down here, man, I was in Savannah for about 3 hours and just fell in love with it. Just the tempo down here is fantastic.
Yeah, why not say? And when you were up here, when you were a cop up north, did you have the full-time academy, or were you just doing part-time stuff?
No, it was full-time, man. So state of Connecticut.
They accepted that in Georgia? You didn't have to do it again?
No. I had to do all that shit again.
Oh.
It was. I mean, after, one police academy, Army basic training, and everything else in between.
What's one
So
more?
yeah, so it was quick, it was harmless. I felt super smart. On
Yeah,
on
yeah.
top of being a Westfield State graduate, I'm now, the graduate of 2 police academies, so I was like wicked smart.
That's how you know you're a New England guy. You're wicked smart.
Yeah, for sure. I'm wicked smart without actually being.
So, Kevin, if you go back to your I don't know, pick whichever you want, Connecticut or Savannah, but when you were on patrol as a young man, what was your first really hot call?
Well, the first one I think that made the most lasting impression was a murder that happened in a housing project that was on the east side of town. It would later wind up being my beat and kind of where I made my bones. But I was in training, and I had a FTO or PTO. We had PTO down here as police training as opposed to field training.
Okay.
But Janessa Stalter was my training officer, and she was big on, if you hadn't experienced everything on the checklist, she would jump the calls and say, "Hey, we're going to ride that one." And I had not worked a shooting at that point. I was only, it's like second phase of whatever, but I'll never forget rolling up to it. I go, and the kid's pants were down around his ankles because he was running. He had the whole sagging thing going on. He tried to run away, didn't make it. But I remember getting to him before anybody else as the crowd was forming, and he had the GSW right underneath his eye. It could see it, and I knew, I'd seen enough of it in Iraq. He had the glaze going over his eyes, and I'm trying to get any information I can out of him before he gone, but he was already on the way out. He was still there, but very clear he wasn't going to make it. And I just remember, my goal before being a cop was to be a cop. And more than that, I wanted to be a homicide detective. So seeing it right there, it was kind of like a visceral thing to me. I just remember thinking, man, I got to solve this. And you and I both know, as a patrolman, you ain't going to solve shit. But,
right.
But I remember that was a huge thing. I remember the exact detectives that showed up. I remember exactly where I went. I remember, putting the crime scene tape up and somebody kind of nodding, saying, "Hey, I know a little bit about this," and passing that on, and so on and so forth. But that was the incident that definitely set the wheels of it. I thought I wanted to be a homicide detective. After that call, that was my goal.
That cemented it.
Yeah, that kind of started me doing all the things I wound up doing.
In an agency that size, could because at like a medium or smaller agency, you might be able to say to the detectives like, "Hey, can I work it with you, or can you involve me?" Was that a big no-no there? The detectives were like, "Get away."
It wasn't so much a no-no. I think the great thing about Savannah, especially at that time, was if you were an asset, they would allow you to be an asset. It's Savannah's a big city with a small town feel. It's not really that big of a city, but it definitely, because we were a merged department, city and county.
Right.
We were over 600 sworn, so that's a pretty big department.
Yeah.
And but those guys knew, like, I got treated with a lot of respect, because if you knew your beat, they would come to you for information. And I wound up being, I stuck my nose in everything. So I wound up getting to know those guys pretty well. Shortly after getting cut loose, so probably a couple months after this murder, there was a shooting in the same housing project, same neighborhood. And I wound up picking up the guy, and I knew who he was, because I knew who the baby's daddy was in the situation. And I wound up picking him up, and because I had some rapport with him, he just told me where the gun was. So it was one of those things where it was kind of wrapped up, put a bow on it, and the homicide detective, who he's now actually the assistant chief in Savannah. It was one of those things, when you're useful and you're helpful, people ask you, they involve you in as much stuff. And I told you before we got recording here, is I had a charmed existence on the police department. I was involved in a lot of things just by luck.
That's awesome. Yeah, and when so you're useful to detectives. They see that obviously they're gonna like any job. Like if they know you can help or you're good, they're gonna go to you first. Is there a testing process there, or was it more of just like let's give this guy a shot?
Yeah, no, there's a test you have to take, and the thing is, like, I wound up on temporary assignments almost my whole career. It was unbelievable. It wasn't until I got to Homicide till I actually had orders to be a detective. Like you take a test that's going to get you into CID. But I had taken the test like one or two times, but in between there, I kept getting assigned to this task force or that task force, and of course those task force were all high visibility. There were a lot of things going on. And, I was given a lot of opportunities because I had a lot of really good supervisors. But they gave me the opportunities, and anytime I got it, I tried to kick the door in,
Yeah,
like,
it seems like
if you're going to put me in, you're going to put me in a spotlight. I'm going to show up,
Yeah. It seems like you were on a lot of cool different task force. Like, did you spend enough time on patrol to like do like a DUI or anything, or were you just swept away to plain clothes?
Yeah, well, the irony of DUI is, somebody who lives the way I was living back in those days. I wasn't a big DUI guy. I was never a big traffic guy. I would stop you for anything, but if you didn't have guns, bombs, or dope or warrants or stuff like that, you're pretty much headed on your way. But
yeah, that's funny. I work with one of the ADAs up here, and she was laughing because she was in Boston for like the last 5 years. And she goes, she was like, geez, the amount of, we call them OUIs. The amount of OUIs out here is crazy. She goes, I was in Boston 5 years. We had one, and the guy T-boned a cruiser. I'm like, yeah, because they're running around. They sign on and they're just going to calls the whole time. They're not hunting for OUIs.
Yeah, no, and the thing is, Savannah's got plenty of that. There's a huge nightlife downtown, anywhere you got people, you got drinking and that kind of stuff. But the great thing about Savannah is we weren't hopping so much call to call as we were out hunting, and we were looking for guns and drugs, and there's plenty of that in Savannah. So that was my whole policing career. Like from the word go, I got kind of thrown into some of the poorer parts of town, which are right on top of the richest parts of town. So you get robberies, you get a lot of everything all at once. And to me, my philosophy was always the only way you're going to prevent that stuff is get them before they leave the neighborhood with their guns, so they don't get into the areas to rob people or get to the other side of town to shoot somebody or whatever. So like I said, I stuck my nose in as much of it as I possibly could. And I just got damn lucky. The right people saw me at the right times, and I always wound up being in the right place at the right time, which was no testament to me in any way, just dumb luck.
Yeah, you run a lot of cool task forces. It's great. I mean, I think the pressing question on probably everybody's mind who's listening wasn't it too humid though? It's so friggin' humid, dude.
Yeah, no, the heat down here is crazy, and that's the one, man. I tell you, I don't like being hot, but I don't miss the snow.
The snow sucks too. I live in Western Mass now, and I was a Cape Cod kid, and it was very mild in Cape Cod. Like we'd get like 3 feet of snow and be gone in like 3 days because it would rain or something. Out here, man, it's like New Hampshire. Like you get snow, and it's like, oh, that will be there for the season, and it's freaking cold. It's like 0 degrees a lot of days. It's like. But by the time spring rolls around, you were truly starting to lose your mind.
I got to tell you, man, I've been in Savannah in Georgia for almost 25 years, and it's snowed 4 times since I've been down here.
Yeah. Pretty nice for you, buddy.
Yeah. Well played. Well played.
Stay where you're at. Yeah. I can't blame you. Yeah. I just always think that when I watch like an old Cops episode or watch some video and it's like Florida or Georgia, and it's, like July and they're wearing their vests. I'm like, oh, I think I would probably just take the risk.
Yeah. It gets unpleasant. I used to like mid-shift an awful lot.
Yeah. Cools way down when the sun goes away. Kevin, can you tell us about your most bizarre or strange call you dealt with?
Oh man, most strange or bizarre. My things were mostly very straightforward in that, I didn't do a ton of calls for service. I mean, I would say out of out of the 10 years or so, I had 1 year on patrol where I was responding to calls. But strangest, I mean, they're all pretty, when you're in downtown Savannah, which is a touristy thing, I think the only one that comes to mind, again, just sheer luck, is we were on a task force. It was called the Robbery Intervention Detail. So our unit and a couple other units around the city were supposed to be proactively stopping armed robberies. Well, how do you do that? It's like, how do you stop a domestic if you don't know it's coming?
Right.
But again, just because my charmed existence, I happened to pull around the corner, and I'm coming off like the main drag in downtown Savannah, and I turned into an alley. We call it up north, but we're very pretentious in Savannah, so it's a lane. So I pulled into the lane.
Fancy.
And this naked man comes running at me, man. I really thought it was an elephant coming at me. I was like, what the hell is this? And he just starts yelling. He's like, man, you robbed me. And I'm like, who robbed you? And as soon as I got the question out, I look, and there's a Mercury Grand Prix backing out and these two giant eyes looking out the back window. And I'm like, I'm betting that's the guy who robbed them. So basically it was a carjacking. He made him strip next to the car. Ugh. And then he goes. So wound up in a pursuit going through. So you got to figure this is downtown Savannah, right at the height of, bars being open and that kind of stuff. And we have a lot of bars. It'd be like going through downtown Boston,
Okay. Yep.
Ripping and running at, I think it was like 11 or 11:30 at night. So there's people everywhere, where if it weren't an armed robbery, obviously you're shutting that off. Even in today's day and age, you're probably shutting it off to break that off. It's not worth the
risk to the public.
Not worth the risk to it. But these are the good old days of law enforcement. So I had the green light to chase this dude till the wheels came off, and I did. So we wound up bouncing off a few cars down the main drag, and he wound up ending it all around a telephone pole. Transformer Oops. Came down, and the thing is, we came over a viaduct. I remember my sergeant, who's one of my closest friends in the world now, he said, man, I remember coming over there, and he looked like Beirut. He's like, there was sparks flying everywhere. There's all the dust from where the car wrecked. And he's like, you're on the radio, be careful of the wires. And I'll never forget, he walked right up to me, and he said, he's like, hey, we don't yell on the radio. I was like, all right, I gotta improve. Point taken. But the only funny part about that story is, I'm like, okay, I look in the car, I see how this has ended, and all I'm thinking is, man, I'm fired. I'm like, this is not good. I'm fired. This dude's dead. I'm gonna have to explain this whole thing. And this crusty old sergeant, Lindsey Rouse, is standing there with his arms folded. And I said, Sarge, and he could, I'm sure, read the fear in my face.
Your white face.
Yeah. I said, Sarge, you think I'm going to be okay? He's like, oh, no, dude. He's like, yeah, you're going to be fine. Unless there's no gun. Then you're fucked. I was like, he had a good time with that. But that's when you ask that question, that's what pops in my mind.
Yeah, that is a wild one, dude. Lindsay, that is a Southern guy's name if I ever heard one.
Oh, yeah. Good old Irish Savannah guy.
Yep.
Think old school crusty sergeant. Yeah, that's your guy. Tough old bird. He was a boxing referee.
Damn. Yeah, he's probably a boxer himself if he was a referee.
I don't know if he ever fought in a ring, but I know he's fought plenty of times on the street. He's a tough old bird.
Hey, even if that guy got his car taken and got wrecked and he got his clothes stripped off, but it sounds like he had a big old wiener, so he already still won.
Yeah, I was going to say, man, he had me beat from the word go. Like, I remember driving. I was like, damn, that was impressive.
Like, what are you upset about, dude?
Yeah, like life has not been fair to you, huh?
That's too funny, man. And the guy friggin' died, huh?
Yeah, and rest in peace, but play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's just, but it is funny. Like, it's part of like the spin of like law enforcement. It's like he said, like, oh, there better be a gun or something. Like, it could have still been a robbery, but we need that extra thing to ratchet it up to be like, yeah, he died, but he had a gun. Like, well, what if you just strong arm robbed him? Then all of a sudden you'd be in trouble if he died. But really, what's the difference to me? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it was, it's sad to laugh about, but the story actually gets even funnier. A couple months later, we were on the west side of town, and a couple guys in the unit had tried to stop a guy on a bike, and he fought with them and ran away. Well, they wound up spraying him. So we were wearing these horrific bright yellow polo shirts. Those were our uniform shirts.
Yeah.
And I pull up to the scene because there's a bunch of yelling on the radio. And one of our guys has orange all over it, like a V sweat thing of orange on his bright yellow shirt, which is obviously OC or pepper spray.
Yeah.
And he's, he's goobing all up, and I'm like, hey man, what, where'd he go? He's like, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, he obviously sprayed him. So we knew in a tight radius, this guy would be somewhere. So we're going through backyards and houses. Well, I found him about a block away, curled up in a bush, spitting and snotting all over himself. And he was very, very upset. So I had no involvement in the stop whatsoever, but I'm trying to help the kid. I'm like, look, man, it's over. No need to fight. We'll get EMS here, get you washed off. He's like, nah, man, you hit me. You sprayed me. I'm like, listen, dude, I didn't hit you. I didn't spray you. I didn't do any of that stuff. I'm like, I wasn't there. Nah, man, you hit me. You sprayed me. I'm like, listen, guy, wasn't me. Like, you can calm down. I'm here to help you. I get the ambulance coming for you. He's like, nah, man, you hit me. You sprayed me. You killed my cousin. I'm like, who's your cousin? He said, so-and-so, and it just so happened to be the same guy. I said, well, look, man, I didn't hit or spray you.
Oh my gosh, what are the chances? Damn,
Yeah,
Andy knew who you were.
Like I said, well, no, I don't think he did. I think he was just mad at the world because he was spitting and snotting, right?
But you happen to be the actual cop. Yeah.
Right. I just have, like I said, Savannah's a big city with a small town feel. So we're all cousins down here.
Yeah, Savannah's beautiful. I've only ever really seen pictures, but is it like if you went there, if you visited there, like see my family and I get like an Airbnb or something just to go see Savannah, would we feel like it's safe?
Yes, absolutely. No, dude, if you're not buying, I think it's like anywhere else. If you're not buying crack, selling crack, or trying to facilitate some sort of crack deal and replace crack with any other narcotic you want, you're not at risk per se. If you're not
to the
in
touristy spots and you're good.
Yeah, if you're not sticking your nose looking for trouble, you're not going to. It's very rare that it comes to find you. The violence in Savannah is very calculated. It's not random. There's a lot of things going on. I'm not saying tourists don't get robbed, but it's a very rare thing. It's a safe city. I would definitely encourage anybody to see it because it really is. I call it the Boston of the South. It's very historic, but it's very alive. Yeah, it's really alive. There's a lot going on, but it's one of, if not the prettiest city in the country.
No kidding. Yeah, the pictures are beautiful. Yeah, it's definitely the random violence is what scares people. It scares me. Like when we moved into where we live now, we're near some other more populated towns, and that exact thing happened. This young like methed out couple broke into an old couple's house and murdered them, and it was like. Yep. Totally random. They just picked this house and like everybody in the area was like locking down the hatches. Like, what the hell? It hasn't happened since. That was 6 years ago, but random crime, random violence like that that's what drives people nuts, makes people move away.
No, and again, it all centers around dope and drugs and that kind of stuff. I'm sure at some point in their lives they were good people doing things right, but they got involved in that world. It ate them, and they wound up doing things you would never imagine they would do.
Yeah, it turned into like zombies.
Yeah, it's horrific, man. I'm thankfully I've never been a drug guy. Booze, yeah, you got me on that, but drugs. I've seen what they do to people. It's laughable to me when people try to bring up race. Well, one race does this drug or another race does that drug. I'm like, man, drugs don't discriminate. They'll eat through you and ruin your life completely and not give a damn your age, your religion or sexual preference or any of that. Drugs don't care.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm white. I can only do meth. I'm black. Right. I have to do crack. It's like,
no, we have to.
There's some crossover there for sure.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Kevin, can you tell us about your most your most intense or terrifying situation you dealt with on the job?
Most intense or most terrifying? I got to tell you, I guess probably not the most terrifying for when you think of all the guns and that kind of stuff that I've seen and been around. But it was kind of simple. It was a jumper on a bridge. We have a big bridge in Savannah. It's called the Talmadge Bridge. It's over the Savannah River, which from Savannah, if you cross the river, you're in South Carolina. So that's cool and not cool in a lot of ways, but it's a very tall bridge. So we're a port city. It's the second or third largest port on the East Coast.
Yep.
So you have these huge cargo ships that come in with all the connexes and stacks. So, I mean, they're absolutely gigantic vessels that come on the river to get to the port. Well, that makes for the bridge being very, very high. So one day we get a call, and a young lady who was wearing, and it's important to see this. There it is. So it's important to get the visualization of this. She's dressed kind of like a marathon runner. Okay. So she's got the shiny, slidey shorts. She's wearing a tank top, and she's a very thin lady. So we get up to the top of the bridge, and it was me and my lieutenant, John Best, who very cool cucumber. I had never seen Lieutenant Best with a hair out of place. He was very cognizant, always
Squared
sharp
away.
in uniform. Hair was always perfect, and just a very laid back demeanor. I never saw him get too excited. Well, it turns out when we both got there on this bridge, he's standing kind of to her 3 o'clock. I'm standing to like the 11 o'clock, and we're trying to figure out, but there's a Jersey barrier between the street, which we're standing on, Jersey barrier, then her on the ledge, and behind her is nothing but the fall in the river. And it turns out, and I learned something about Lieutenant Best, and he learned something about me immediately, is we're both terrified of heights.
Oh,
so
yeah, I'm not a big fan either.
Yeah, man. And you're up there on that bridge, and people don't think so, but it's moving. Okay.
Yeah.
The bridge is swaying while you're there, and the wind is moving, the wind's blowing. So I'm trying to concentrate on helping this woman, because she's obviously in some mental distress, and
Crisis,
she's thinking
yeah.
about jumping and all that. Just a hard call as it is alone. But now I'm scared to death. I mean, I'm petrified. And Lieutenant Best's hair is blowing all over the place.
Oh my gosh, his hair is messy.
And I can see in his face, he feels the same way I do. I'm like, oh shit, this is not going to end well.
Yeah.
So
I like how the hair is like the indicator that things are going to go bad. It's like his perfect hair.
For whatever reason in my head, that's when I knew we were in deep shit. I was like, this is not a good situation. Like if he's flustered, like I said, so calm, cool all the time. He was just as flustered as I was, and it was the hair. I was like, oh man, this is not
awesome.
going to end well. So, I have my handy dandy Ranger Rick police notebook, and I'm writing down, I say, sir, the go word is going to be hair, or whatever the go word was. And I hand him my notebook, because we're talking to her saying, hey, this, that, and the other thing, just trying to distract her from stepping back or doing anything. So I handed to him, kind of writing the plan. He said, he's nodding his head going, yep, okay. So we finally get the plan where we're going to snatch this girl. And again, bare skin, thin clothing. So if you grab it, it's going to tear. You don't want to knock her off, obviously, into the water.
Mm.
And just as we're getting close, enough to her where I could actually get my hand on her, it starts to rain. So now we have a woman who doesn't want to live. We're on a bridge that's swaying and moving, and the wind is blowing. And now I'm sweating like a pig. And, my very calm, cool, collected lieutenant, he's sweating like a pig. And I'm like, this is not going to end well. So she finally said to me, she's like, I just want this to be over, and I don't want it to hurt. So I saw my in. I said, look, ma'am. I said, and I completely bullshit her, because I had never seen anybody jump I'd seen one person, but I said, look, I said, if you jump, I said, I've seen some people jump. I said, the lieutenant's been here 20 years, he's seen hundreds of people jump, and not one of them's died. They break their ribs, they break their pelvis, they're in horrible pain. So you don't want to jump. And
Smart.
that was enough to get her to be like, oh no, I don't want any of that. So that was what we used to get her on the other side of it. But it wasn't smart, man. I just wanted it over. I was scared. I'm not, there's no other way to say it. I'm like, lady, please either do it or don't. Cause I'm just got to get off this damn bridge.
Damn, dude. Yeah, I'd feel the same way. I am not a big fan of heights. I can, like, my daughter's 16 and her whole life, her whole childhood, she's like, if there's a roller coaster, she's like, oh, I want to go on that. And I'm always the one that has to go with her. And every time I'm like just holding it in, like, I hate this. I hate it so much.
No, you can't be soft there. But I will tell you this, the cool thing about that is apparently being scared of heights is hereditary. So my son is an Army Ranger. Airborne Ranger. They jump out of planes.
Yeah.
If you get him to stand on a chair, his knees are knocking. He's scared to death of heights. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen.
But he jumps out of planes.
Oh yeah, jumps out. Well, he only does it because he has to. And it's one of those things where they're like, you can't. When you're around those types of guys, you can't bitch out.
Oh yeah. Yep, those type of guys, or your young daughter who will never forget that her dad is a wimp.
Exactly. Yep. No weakness. No weakness.
Yeah, that's right. I love it too, honey.
Yeah, this is fun. Yeah. Why are you crying, Dad? Because I'm happy.
They're happy tears, sweetheart. So, do you recall a positive or heartwarming scenario?
Yeah, man. I've had some cool experiences. I mean, the coolest one is kind of when you only dream it would happen. We got a kidnapping call. I was on the Narcotics Task Force in a couple counties over from Savannah, and there was a kidnapping from Yamacraw Village in downtown Savannah. So I knew, a lot of the people that were involved in responding to it, but they suspected that the young girl she's when I say young, I'm talking probably early 20s. She was kidnapped out of the projects, all over drugs again. And they brought her out to Hinesville, out where Fort Stewart, home of the mighty 3rd Infantry Division, is. And they suspected they may have brought her to one or two locations. So we set up on the 2 houses out there, and we knew what kind of vehicle we were looking for. We knew a couple of things. So we're sitting on the house, and all of a sudden, a guy comes walking out the front door. Like, we'd been sitting on this house for hours, but he comes walking out because apparently he got hungry. So we let him get away from the house, took him down. He said she was in fact there. And while we were surrounding the house to go hit it, she had freed herself and
oh, thank goodness,
came running right to us. So that was one of the best feelings you ever get, because there was no question. I mean, the atrocities that had happened to her in those couple of hours, she all the bad things you think could happen did happen,
right?
But they hadn't killed her, but he was waiting for the other 2 guys that were involved to return, and they were definitely going to kill her. So knowing the fact that she survived that, at least I'm hoping her marbles aren't too scrambled from it.
Yeah, that's brutal.
That was probably one of the coolest, heartwarming reactions.
Yeah, that's kind of like what you dream of, kind of when you become a cop, like the damsel in distress, you saved her. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they make those kind of movies about it, and it was one of those things where the guys from Savannah did a really good job. It was the detective on it was actually my first sergeant on patrol, so it was pretty cool to be able to work with him as a grown up. He knew me as a rookie, and now we're he's a sergeant of an investigation. I was an investigator at the time, so it was a really good 360 moment.
What was did you say it was a gang that did this?
No, it was drugs. They fronted somebody some drugs. He didn't pay them, so they kidnapped his girlfriend and brought her a couple towns over.
Oh my gosh.
Brilliant way of solving problems, right?
Oh Man, that is sick. Totally innocent woman just dating the wrong guy.
Yeah.
Or
I mean, how many times do you see that? You know, you get involved with people and all of a sudden you inherit their shit, and his shit was pretty bad, apparently.
Yeah, when I had a great example of that when I was doing background investigations for the city of Los Angeles. I was doing one on a LAPD applicant, and his family had let his cousin in I think it was, I forget the name of the town, but just outside LA near the city of Ontario. They let the cousin live there because he was getting into trouble. Well, what happens? But the local gang pulls up in the lowrider and yells, "Where are you from?" It's mom and dad just came back from a cookout carrying their yard chairs into the garage. Lights them up, lights up the whole house. So now, of course, because of this incident and this kid applying, I have to go talk to the gang unit. I have to make sure this wasn't a retaliatory thing against our applicant.
Right.
And
yeah, make sure his toes weren't in that water.
Right. And it turns out they weren't. He was a totally good kid, but I went there and I saw the bullet holes and I was like, man, this is crazy. These poor people. And the father actually covered the mother, and he took 7 or 8 rounds up his whole body to cover the mom, all because this friggin' cousin was screwing around with gangs, and these guys were partying down the street, and they said, I know where he moved. We'll go fix him. We'll fix his family. Totally innocent people.
Very unforgiving world we live in.
Yeah. Say that again, man. Really, I wanted to get, I didn't mention yet, but you are an author and you've written a trilogy of books, which is impressive because last time I checked, a trilogy is 3 because I did go to Westfield State. I understand that.
It's the Harvard of Western Mass, man.
That's right. It's an interesting story. The latest book is No Greater Honor, No Bigger Failure. In the trilogy, can you tell us a little bit? I have one last question for you after this is Vice New Police Officers, but I want you to talk a little bit, if you're comfortable with it, how you became an author and kind of the genesis of this whole journey you went on.
Yeah, so like we talked about, my career ended rather unceremoniously. It was a kind of a hell of a show. I wound up getting a DUI, but it was in 2014. So I wound up getting swept up in a political just shitstorm.
Because you can survive a DUI as a cop usually.
Right. And that was the thing.
It sucks, but you can.
No, and I was absolutely guilty of that. There's no, I've never made any excuse for it. It was a dumb thing to do. I was living life wrong, but, it was kind of, so I'd been to Iraq. I'd seen all the things that I'd seen in Savannah,
sure,
to include the 2 years in Homicide. There's nothing to me, and I don't mean to be discouraging to anybody who's thinking about getting into it, but there is no upside to Homicide. Even
it's
if you
catch
the murderers, the person that they killed is still dead. You can't do anything to fix that. You can't repair families. You can't. And I became a cop to try to help people. And that was kind of the ultimate realization for me, is there's nothing I could really do. And I also, dealing with a little bit of an ego, I was an offensive cop. I was a very proactive guy. So investigations is you're reacting to things. And, so it wasn't, not to say that I wasn't competent, but that was definitely not my wheelhouse. I was far more effective being proactive. So
like on a task force or something, you'd probably be happy to kick doors in and do that stuff.
Yeah. So the first 2 books that I wrote are all about my proactive stuff, and they're fun. Like we're talking running and gunning stories. You're jumping fences, you're helping people who've been kidnapped get away. You're doing all those cool things. Well, this 3rd book, the No Greater Honor part, is the homicide investigator's creed is that there's essentially no greater honor than being the voice for the dead. So you get to speak for people who can't speak for themselves. And that was a huge honor, tying it back to Westfield. My Uncle Mac, who was a deputy chief in Springfield, Mass., he made his bones in Homicide. He's the whole reason I became a cop to begin with. So Homicide is a very glamorous thing. That's what they make the TV shows, they make the movies about, and that kind of stuff. But in my head, that was all I ever wanted to be. So when I finally got there and realized, shit, this sucks. I mean,
what a letdown.
Don't get me wrong. The adrenaline rush of solving a murder is fantastic. The process of investigating and actually learning who did it and being able to do something about it's phenomenal. And the guys who are very, very good at it, I understand why they do it the way they do it. But for me, just because of the situations in my life, it was hard for me to look at. So, I got into the bottle real heavy. It destroyed my marriage because of my behavior. But all of those things. So in the books, my books are extremely candid. There is no sugarcoating. There is no try to make you feel better about it. If I tell you what it is, you can believe that I'm telling you what it is. I tell you the good and the bad. I can tell you great things about me because I'm probably my own biggest fan, but at the same time, I tell you the truth. I tell you what a shit bag I became in a lot of circumstances too. To me, you can't tell a story unless you're telling all 360. All the good, all the bad. But the purpose of my books are to make people like true crime enthusiasts. Okay, I want them to feel what it's really like, because homicide is so glamorous. I show you what an investigation is, what it really takes to solve a murder. The 3 days of not sleeping and just grinding until you finally get that one little ray of hope, and then jumping on that, and you can't wait. So I show you what that's like. But what I also wanted to do is show the guys and girls who are there doing it. If you're having second thoughts or if the job's really bothering you and stuff like that, you're not the only one. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to turn to your brothers and sisters. When you and I started policing, there was a huge stigma of, if you talk about how you feel or if your emotions get to you in a job or in a case, you're weak. Well, I don't believe that. It's been my experience because I used to, pound my chest and think I was the toughest dude in the world. I am anything but I'm not ashamed of that in any way, shape, or form. It's just I'm human, and that's the thing. These stories they're cop stories, but they're very human stories. I try to make sure that everybody knows, anybody on the job at any level, in any assignment. Like, look, if this stuff is bothering you, get some help. It's okay. Don't let it eat you. And I'm a perfect example of how not to do things. So I wrote it in those books. So hopefully I can help the next generation avoid my mistakes.
Sounds awesome. Because I think people can tell just from hearing you talk and how upfront and honest you are about everything. I'm sure they're written just like that, and it's probably fascinating.
Yeah, it like I said, it's one of those things where I think the greatest compliment, I never thought I would write anything, but I was waiting to go to trial and my craziness. And if you want to know the details about that, it's in my first book, Black Sheep, White Cop, Savannah Exposed. But I just wanted to show people what it's really like. You can't, you're not going to go through life without making mistakes, and you have to pour that out there. But I see in mass media, CNN, MSNBC, all the social media, people taking snippets of body cam video and that kind of stuff and trying to judge what the police do.
Right.
I try to give people a much clearer view of what it's actually like, what's really going on. Cops aren't racist killers. They're out there to protect the community. Okay. If there's that 0.1% of cops out there doing the wrong thing, there's so many, the vast majority of police officers out there, they're out there doing things for the right reason. They may screw up here and there because, again, they're human, but they're out there. The reason for them doing the job, it is altruistic. It's truly, I've never met any cop that ever got a 911 call and asked dispatch what the race or religion or any of those things was. They respond to the calls the same way. Now you mix media and politics and that kind of stuff in the call, then, TV cameras show up and that kind of stuff. But the detectives or the officers working the case, they're working it. They don't care who you are. Okay,
Yeah,
they're
that's what
there to
I've
help
seen
you.
too. Same thing.
Yeah,
That's why
it's one of those.
it's infuriating for us as cops to see it on the news the way it plays out. And like you're saying about the snippets of video they play just to make you look bad or just to be sensational,
No, and the worst part about it is what other job gets that type of scrutiny? In my second book, Ruffian, I discussed the statistics of medical malpractice. Okay, you know how many people die as a result of medical malpractice, but you never hear anybody saying defund the doctors.
right? You don't get your physical and you go, you're not a dick to your doctor.
Yeah, no, it's just it's absolutely insane the way people think. I don't think people realize the amount of training and experience that it goes into being effective law enforcement official. And I don't care, sheriff's deputy, probation officer, whatever. You have to know what you're doing. Okay, there's a lot that goes into it, and the thing is, nothing teaches like experience. So the academies get you ready, as you know, but
Yeah,
what really teaches you is the experience.
doing it. Yeah,
So when people watch something on TV and they say, "Oh, well, I would have done this, this, this," like, dude, come on, man, you don't know what you're talking about. But it seems like the vast majority of the public feel that their opinion matters, and honestly, it doesn't. It really doesn't. And I know that's a hard pill for some people to follow, but my opinion on your gallbladder being removed doesn't matter because I don't have any training and I have no experience on that. But I can't watch a video of a surgery and give my input and think that it's going to mean anything. It's no different than what police officers are doing.
right. Yeah. Yeah, I know it's one of those, the pendulum swings, it's like after 9/11, we were heroes and then we slowly lost it and we've been kind of in a slump. So, but the saddest part about it is it's like, we don't want something to happen where you have to think we're good again. You know what I mean? It's like we have to have some major tragedy where police step up and then people will go, they're not so bad. Like we don't want that.
No, you don't want that. You want to avoid that. So that's, again, one of the 32 reasons that I wrote these books is I hope that somebody will pick it up and realize, well, oh, okay. All right. I kind of see, just look at things through a different lens. Cause
behind the curtain a little bit.
I don't know anything about boating, but I can pick up a book and read it and maybe get some insight into, okay, well, all right, that makes a little more sense to me now that I've read this. But it's a tough business. I have nothing but admiration and respect for the men and women who get up every day and put their boots on and answer the call. They don't call in sick. They show up to work, and when bad things happen, they go run into it. And I have always, and I always will respect folks that are willing to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the latest book, No Greater Honor, No Bigger Failure, that is on Amazon, available now. So I'll put the link in the show notes for that for sure.
I appreciate that greatly. It's, like I said, it's very important to me. And it has nothing to do with money because believe me, there's no money in books. But the idea is I in all three books, I try to change the perception. If you've never been in law enforcement, I definitely try to make you feel what it's like to be in the car. And if you're retired or out of it or, away from the police world, I kind of want to put you back in there so you feel it. And the concept and the important part of that to me is to let you know that if any of the stuff that you dealt with in your career ever bothered you, you're not the only one. It's okay. There's plenty of people to talk to if you need to help, because the amount of suicide in the veteran and law enforcement community is just it's skyrocketed, and that's a scary thing to me because as you well know, I'm sure you've worked suicide at some point in your career, and anybody who has, that is a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where I try to do everything I can to advocate to keep people from feeling that way, because it's a horrific way to end a life. I hate it.
Yeah, I do too. And it happens everywhere. When I was a cop on the Cape, a friend of mine I worked with, a detective, left the station, went down to a beach and shot himself. I mean, on Cape Cod, it's not like a big city or anything. But when they looked at when they were starting to look at stuff for for his retirement and like what they were going to do with the retirement fund, and this is all just stuff I heard. They pulled the stats trying to kind of advocate for his wife to get his retirement, because he'd been a cop 25 years on the Cape, and he had been to hundreds of dead bodies, suicides, horrible crashes, he'd been exposed to all that over years and years, and trying to take that trauma that he had into account when we're trying to figure out how we're going to take care of his family, You know how it is with retirement boards trying to get them to do the right thing.
No, and I get it, and it all comes down to money, and I understand that. But to me, one of the things that I write about and get on podcasts and talk about is it's an injury. Okay, the traumatic events that you go and they pile up over the years, that stuff never leaves you. So you sustain that injury, or you go through that experience as part of your job. So to me, it's one of those things where they have to take into consideration that injury was caused by him just doing his job,
Right.
And I don't know why in his particular case it happened, obviously. But I've seen so many, and it always leaves you wondering why, but I have to suspect that it's that aggregate. It's the collection of these horrible scenes that you see. And if you don't deal with them, I can see where suicide may seem like a credible solution, but it's not. And I think that's why it's important to talk about it in any venue or any chance we get to let people know, look, there's help out there. Don't take a permanent stance on something that you can definitely be helped with, because we've all been through it, man. I don't care. I don't care if it's one traffic accident that hits you the wrong way, or a horrific homicide scene. To me, trauma is trauma. It doesn't matter where it comes from.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's man, it's brutal, and I think it does have a lot to do with just how the agencies look at it. And thankfully there is a lot more openness to people talking to people, and paying that $10 copay or whatever to go talk to somebody if you have to. It's just it's important to do, and it's everybody's built different too. Like there's guys I worked with over in LA that were like on robbery homicide for 42 years, greatest dudes, just awesome dudes. They didn't even want to leave, they wanted to keep doing it. And then there's other people that were like, they got their 20 and were like, I've had enough. This job is like tearing my life down. And like we were saying before, like booze only plugs the hole in that dam for so long, and then that stops working, and then that starts to ruin your life. So there's really, I always liked, and they've changed the retirement system in the Northeast. A lot of these states, I don't know if they've done down there, but they've made it worse where you have to be older and stay longer. I always like the 20 or 25 in, and if you want, you get 50 or 75% and you're out. I mean, it's a young man's job. You did your time. Let these guys go. Let us go and go do something else. But now it's like 32 years. You got to be 63, whatever it is. It's like, you want all these old men running around like just so they can retire?
Yeah, we don't have unions down here. The retirement is crap. The pay is minimal compared to what some departments in the North make. But regardless, to your point, is the thing is enough gets to be enough. The thing is everybody's built different. I know guys that worked homicide for more than 10 years, and they're fine with it. They develop their coping mechanisms and they go through it, and they never want to leave. I know some people that work it for a couple of weeks and they want out as fast as they can.
They go to one and they're like, "Yeah, I'm good. This is."
Yeah, and I don't judge. Yeah, I don't judge that either way.
Sure.
I was not a traffic cop. You don't want Kevin Grogan on an accident scene trying to reconstruct things, because I don't care. I'm not interested. As long as everybody's okay, I'm not trying to impress anybody with my triangulation skills or
Right.
anything like that. It just, I wasn't wired that way. It wasn't thing. But there are guys out there who are technicians at that stuff.
Sure.
It takes all kinds to do this job, in identifying for yourself. Like I said, I thought homicide was where I always wanted to be. I thought that was where I wanted to be. And when I got there, when I came to the realization that it was what I thought it was going to be, but then it wasn't. So, it's one of those things. And rather than deal with that in a healthy manner, I drank myself stupid and, it caught up with me.
Yeah. Yeah. Like so many do. Kevin, one last question, popular question on the show. After all that, we talked about the job stuff. What would you give to advice to people that are getting into law enforcement now, besides avoid doing it? Because we do need young cops to get involved. What would you say to them?
Well, I would never say avoid doing it. And even with all the bad things that we just talked about, I would never say avoid doing it, because as you well know, it's the greatest show on earth. If you want to see the world, law enforcement is an amazing way to see what's happening in life. I would never discourage anybody because it's such an important role in life. The thing is, we have all this scrutiny, the social media, the YouTubes, the body cams, all these things, and everybody thinking that they know how to do the job when they don't.
Right.
Well, the thing that I say to young and aspiring law enforcement, you can be the difference. Okay. You can bridge that gap to show the public, what law enforcement really is. I'm an old man. I'm set in my ways. I say things that, are no longer socially acceptable, but this next generation coming in, they have skills that I didn't have with communication and let people know how things can be. So I encourage them to use those skills and get out there, but you got to hold the line. Okay. Don't ever forget that there comes a time where talking doesn't work anymore and you just have to do. Don't ever let administrators keep you from doing that, because you have to keep yourself and your brothers and sisters out there safe, and never compromise that, because safety will always be not only for the public, but for yourselves. But I don't know why anybody would want this job anymore, other than truly, and there's no pun intended, there is no greater honor than to be that shield between the good guys and the bad guys. It really is that simple. Go out there, do your job, do it honestly, and you'll sleep very well at night.
Yeah, absolutely. Wise words, brother. Thank you so much. It was an honor to have you on, Kevin. Great stories. You can pick up the book on Amazon, No Greater Honor, No Bigger Failure, and check out the other two books too that precede that. Can you hang on for just like 2 minutes when I do the outro?
Absolutely. And awesome. I appreciate you having me.
Oh, my pleasure. The great Kevin Grogan, ladies and gentlemen. Great stories. I feel like he's got plenty more in there, so maybe we'll see if we can rope him into another appearance. Thank you to him. Check out his book, No Greater Honor, No Bigger Failure. Link is in the show notes. Thank you to all the Patreon members who support the show. Let me pull it up. I got it ready. Don't worry. It's ready to go. If you choose sergeant or above, you will get a shout out on the show. I'm starting with the lieutenants. Who I'm talking about is the great and powerful Andy Biggs, the great Kyle Roberts, the handsome and venerable Brad Thompson, Big Bear Investigations. Check him out. Michael Roach, Roach Machines AI Solutions. Check him out. The handsome Lane Campbell, Gary Steiner, everybody, Adam Meal, Seth Wright, the great Lauren Stimson, Jason Lau, Sasha McNabb, thank you, Tammy Walsh, hold it down at dispatch, thank you, Tammy, the great George Tessier, love you, buddy, see you at church, Dennis Carrasquillo, my man, thank you, Scott Young, ladies and gentlemen, Dan Carlson from Burley Boards, amazing woodworker, check him out on Instagram, Doug and Kelly Newman, love you guys, and miss ya, Raymond Arsenal, my brother, Richard Tolles, keep on trucking, my man. Stay safe out there. The great Elliot Sykes. Clark Luckhoff, everybody. Adam McMahon. Sheriff Ronald Long. Thank you, Sheriff. Zachary Pleat, everybody. The great Jason Labrie. Lisa Gano, ladies and gentlemen. Sherry Finch. Thank you, Madame. Eric Smith. Thank you. Jackson Dalton, Black Box Safety. Check them out. Thank you, Jackson. The great Brett Lee. Alex Wazik, my man, thank you. Lauren Smith, thank you to you. Yvonne True Love, thank you. Just Curious, my man, thank you. Becky Zajacek, correct me if I'm wrong, that's what it looks like. Thank you. And Gina, Kimmy, welcome aboard, and thank you muchly. Guys, thank you so much for the support on the show. Thank you for the Patreon members who help support, and can I say support anymore? I truly appreciate it. So if you really love the show, you heard all the episodes, and you're still listening now, check out the link in the show notes and throw some shekels old Stevie Boy's way. Besides that, I love you guys, and I'll see you next week.